I'll begin by saying hello to those of you online, because it's a little hard to sometimes to pay attention to what's in person and online at the same time. So maybe start with you. It's easier then. So hi, and some of you I know, and some of you I don't know, and some of you are behind your tile. And anyway, welcome. Very nice to have you here. And I wish you could be here and see it. So if you haven't seen Mountain Stream, it's a really beautiful place, beautiful meditation center, and it's easy for someone like me to have envy, little bit, because we have a nice place, but in Redwood City, but this is spectacular, with the grounds and these rooms and the interior decorating by John Travis. All his tankas. So hello everyone. Welcome here in person, and happy to be here. And how many of you were here a year ago when I did this with John? So some of you, but it was lots of fun last year. Can you hear okay? There's a volume. You can't hear enough. Oh, I see. It's quite loud over here where I am. So I don't know what we can
say. Daniel, turn me up.
Oh, Daniel? Siri? Daniel, turn me up? Let's see. Is that better now?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel.
So anyway, I had lots of fun here last year with John, and I look forward to coming back here and being with all of you, and miss John. I talked to him yesterday, and seems like he's coming back maybe to Nevada City in a few weeks, maybe. And so this time I'll do it with some of it with Adam. The idea is I'll do the time before the break, and then Adam and I will share it after the break. So, anything that you need to know logistically about being here, what's happening here? We'll probably be here together. I'll talk for a while first, and then we'll do a little meditation based on what I said, and then we'll take a break, and, and then Adam will come, and we'll do more with time for questions and answers and things. But anything logistically any of you need to know about being here? And I don't know if anybody's new to Mountain Stream or something.
Is there anyone here who hasn't been here before? Okay, one person. I guess the most important thing is where the bathrooms are. So if you go out here, go to the left, and you'll go into the library, and then you take a right, and there's 2 bathrooms. You can choose either. And then also we have tea in the kitchen and water in the kitchen if you'd like to partake. And then also, yeah, as Gil said, we'll have a 30-minute break, so kind of a long break in the middle for community time, so for mingling and having some conversations. So, yeah, really appreciate you all being here.
Yes? Okay. Thank you, Daniel. So, one of the, I think, one perspective on what's central to Buddhism is that Buddhism, Buddhist teachings, Buddhist practice is not meant to be out there. It's not meant to be found in a book. It's not meant to be found in a Dharma teacher talking about it. It's meant to be found in how we are. So that makes it very personal, and I would say very intimate, that the Dharma practice, Buddhism, it's about how we live our lives, how we conduct ourselves, how we experience ourselves, how we talk with friends, how we do our work, how we go through the day, and all the details of our life. It's how, And in that way, it's not like a separation between teachings and you. There is no separation between that and you. You're not separate from who you are and how you are. And so we're taking a deep dive into how we are in order to understand how we are. In order so we can be, the how becomes liberated, it becomes free. Becomes a how is not burdened by things that lessen us, diminish us, keep us restricted, keep us limited, keep us suffering, keep us in pain, and keep us caught up in attitudes, emotions, motivations which are harmful for ourselves and harmful for others. So there's a transformation of how we are in Buddhism. And that transformation, it can be very, very thorough, very complete. We can become radically different people. And that's been celebrated down through the ages by recognizing that some people are mature in this practice. And they mature in such a radical way that how they are is like a new person. And so there's different names for people who have that new identity, new way of being. And in our Theravadan tradition, the full maturation is called an arhat, someone who's fully liberated. And then there are stages, they say, of that process. There's different models in Theravada, in our tradition, of that process of maturation, of transformation, how we are. And the most famous one is a 4-stage model, and the one that I prefer is a 2-stage model. And the 2-stage model is that we discover a way to be that's so new, so transformative, so inspiring, that this becomes the primary reference point for how we're going to live our lives, for how we're going to be. We know a how now. We know the how. We know that one how is not so healthy for us, that we can spend a lifetime in unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy attitudes, unhealthy ways of seeing and being with ourselves. And we can be filled with stress. There are people who spend a lifetime with resentment, with hatred, a lifetime having been wounded and holding on to that pain and living with that pain and never healing that pain. A lifetime of greed and conceit and trying to build up a sense of self and becoming President of the United States, even. So or we can mature. And I like the word mature because it keeps us right close to how we are, so there's not this separation. And maturation is a gradual process, like a plant matures or a human matures, like children mature as they grow older. It's quite remarkable to watch the very natural process of a child grow and develop. And some of the physical stuff, maybe, chances are for most people having a healthy life, is a natural process. When I was young, I would try to stop my kids from growing because I like them being small. So I'd put their hand on top of their head and tell them, stop growing. And they just would laugh and giggle, and they thought Dad was being ridiculous because how can Dad stop me from growing? And, doesn't work that way. But psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually, people grow. And that growth doesn't stop when we become 18 or 21. It can be right up until the day we die. There's still growing going. We're maturing and maturing. But in this tradition, there is this recognition, these milestone times, when that maturation opens up to a new vista, a new way of seeing, a new understanding. And so, in a sense, there's a goal. And sometimes in Theravada Buddhism, the Buddhism that this center is mostly coming out of, the Buddhism of usually considered to be the early Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha, earliest teachings. Sometimes it's called the teachings of Thailand and Burma, Sri Lanka mostly. There's a lot of emphasis on this goal, and sometimes it's very dualistic. Sometimes there's a lot of striving, and sometimes it's that goal becomes something out there that people huff and puff for. And then all kinds of unfortunate comparisons go on, and unfortunate clingings, and unfortunate conceits that come up. There are people who mature to some degree, but not enough to stop being conceited. And so, in fact, they become more conceited because, look how mature I am. I'm well on my way to being not conceited. I'm really doing well here. So there's a lot of resistance sometimes, and strong criticism of a very strong divide between practicing and getting to a goal, striving for a goal. It's out there. And sometimes people like Vipassana teachers like me will talk about how you lose your life looking for a goal, expecting something in the future, and you're future-oriented, you're thinking about it, wanting it, and you're kind of not really present fully, completely here in this life. And then there's people who practice in what's called sometimes non-dual Buddhist traditions. Sometimes Zen is seen that way, sometimes some Tibetan traditions are seen this way. And where the idea is that you're not supposed to have any duality between subject and object, self and the world, no duality between the path and the goal, the way to practice and where you're going. And I practice in those traditions, and they're beautiful and wonderful. But what I saw was that, at least in the traditions where I practiced in, people would lose sight of the fact that you can mature. And it'd be like a kid who said in first grade to their teacher, or second grade, I'm perfect the way I am, nothing's needed. I can just be present, fully present, and with this life here. And what you're telling me there is just too dualistic. That squiggle on the board is supposed to represent this letter we call A, and I don't need to know that. I don't have to know it because there's no point. And you're focusing on telling me I should do it because in the future I'll know how to read the word apple. I mean, that's something in the future. I'd rather just eat the apple now. I don't need to know this dualism, this concept, and these squiggles should mean something. I'm just going to be fully here. Well, that's nice. That's a very profound kid. And by the time he's in third or fourth grade, all his friends are reading comic books or something and just laughing, having a good time, and they're out of reach for him. He can't see them, understand. You can look at the pictures, but still, he can't participate in the life. And yesterday I was at someone's house, and there was a book, looked like a beautiful historical book of writings by Oscar Wilde on the table. And so I opened it at random, and I was supposed to be teaching this group of people, but I was immediately riveted. I just opened it at random, read a sentence. Oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to find out what's going to happen next, and I'm going to have to get to the end of the section. There has to be a conclusion here. So luckily there was. Good enough, so I could relax and I could be there with the group. So, life was so rich and so wonderful to read Oscar Wilde and have the ability. So it's a long-winded way of saying that sometimes the non-dualistic approach doesn't recognize what's possible and the purpose of practice. And in a way, when I taught insight meditation, this practice here, in my early years, first 10, 15, 12 years, I was very much presenting it in this kind of more non-dualistic way. It was just about really being present for this moment, and that was going to be enough. And what I saw, and I was happy teaching it, I thought it was profound and meaningful for me. And what I saw is that people who listened to me practiced nicely, but they had no sense of what was possible, their potential, and so they actually shortchanged themselves. They didn't know how to give themselves fully enough into that practice, the present moment practice that we're teaching, with some sense of how it can allow that maturation process. And so I started slowly kind of being more dualistic in my teaching, a little more goal-oriented, but hopefully in a way that I could encompass both the practice and the goal together, that they weren't really separated, but they both are important to have. And much of human life is based on that we have potential. You educate a child, and based on the idea the child has a potential to learn. And you maybe see someone who looks romantically wonderful, and maybe you're single, and you kind of maybe ask them out because there's a potential here. That's part of the deal, and then you explore that potential. So potential is a very important part of human life. And so potential implies change and growth. So how we are as human beings, fundamentally and deeply, is that we're changeable, we grow, we unfold. And if you don't take responsibility for it, other people will. There's a tremendous industry. There's advertisements, there's politicians, there's people who are selling you things, people who are selling you beliefs, who are trying to change how you are, trying to get you angry, trying to get you afraid, trying to make you feel discontented so you want to buy more. The forces on us from our society are huge, and some of it is not so intentional. Just because of the ambience, where we live and what's around us. When I was moved to the Palo Alto area in 1995, I had an old Toyota Celica, little red, little sporty thing. I had been given it, which I then eventually gave to, when he was old enough, to John Travis's son. So it got passed on. And I was happy and content. I'd been a monk for 10 years, and so, I didn't need anything special in the car. I was completely happy with it. But every week I drove it through the streets of Palo Alto, which in that time was already a wealthy place, and most people had new cars. And then the magic of the human mind happened. One day, I was driving around Palo Alto and said, I should have a new car. I didn't need a new car. The car was a perfectly good car, but I think I was being influenced by what was around me. So we're influenceable. So if we are careful about what our potential is and how we develop it, how we move it and grow, other people will do it for us. Other things will affect us. And so this practice is taking responsibility for how we are and how we practice with it and for our potential and what direction we want to go. So this is all a background to try to convey to you what I think is a very fundamentally profound teaching that in my reading of the ancient texts goes back to the earliest teachings of the Buddha. And this is the idea that the means, the goal of what we can grow into, should be found in the means. They should not be separated. That the simple example would be, if your goal is to become a generous person, the way to do that is to start being generous. If you start practicing generosity, practice giving, then you'll grow in your generosity until you become a generous person. And people, you think, oh, I finally become generous, but I grew into it by doing it. So in that sense, the goal was found in the means to it. The two weren't separated. So in this earliest tradition, in the book that I think Maeve is going to teach at some point soon, is called The Book of Eights. And that's what scholars think are some of the earliest teachings of Buddhism. And I was introduced to it when I was first doing graduate studies in Buddhist studies, because it was presented to me as, or there was a famous article back then that was saying that this book was the precursor of Madhyamaka, if you know what that is, but more important, of Zen. Some of these more non-dual kind of tradition. This came from, this was the precursor, this was the origin of it. And to have that be the first kind of teachings of the Buddha kind of is interesting. And it's a radical teaching because on the surface it seems like it's saying that it's not about belief, it's not about views and opinions and teachings, it's not about being ethical, it's not about doing spiritual practices. That's not what liberation is. That's not how it's found. It's like that is like pulling the rug from out all of what we think Buddhism is. It's not about those things. And I can just go to a party. I can and rob banks and have lots of money and have a good time because it's not about that. It's not what it's saying. What it's saying is that those things might be supportive and important in some ways, but none of that is going to bring liberation, bring freedom. And part of this kind of emphasis, the text repeatedly says something I think is very significant. It says, don't take any teachings as the ultimate teaching. Don't take any teaching as being the perfect teaching, the highest teaching, the universal teaching, the true teaching of what it's all about. Now, for religious people, that's ridiculous. I mean, every religion kind of has the ultimate teaching, and that's partly why it's so important and so valuable and why people want it. And many people who give themselves over to a religion, like some people give themselves to Buddhism, you kind of want it to be worthwhile. And one of the ways it makes it worthwhile is you're pretty confident these are the real teachings. This is the ultimate thing. And if you don't have the ultimate thing, it's kind of embarrassing to go to the block party. And your other friends have ultimate teachings, and they say, what is your ultimate teaching? Well, we don't have any. We don't believe in ultimate teachings. And then they look at you and they feel sorry for you. We have ultimate teachings. You should be able to at least have them too. Take mine. And so how this works, this emphasis on no ultimate teachings, because ultimate teachings don't liberate. What liberates? What frees us? And in this early tradition, the whole thing is predicated, or emphasized, or centered on not clinging. It's non-clinging. And it's non-clinging to beliefs, not clinging to ethics, but be ethical. Non-clinging to teachings, non-clinging to practices, but do some practices, because they help you not cling. But the emphasis is don't cling. And it has nothing to do with what's ultimate and not ultimate. In fact, to posit something as the ultimate teaching is a kind of clinging itself. And for some people, to have that be looking like the ultimate teaching of the tradition, or the primary teaching of a tradition, seems like it's pretty cheap or pretty diminished, or it's not much. And maybe so. Maybe it's not so grand just to have non-clinging as a goal. But the byproduct of not clinging is a radical, thoroughgoing, full transformation of a person from being someone who suffers to not suffering. Someone who doesn't know a radical, abiding sense of peace to now knowing a radical, abiding sense of peace. And for Buddhism, the idea of not suffering is highly motivating. And the end of suffering is a powerful, meaningful, significant transformation. And there might be other things to do then. Maybe there's ultimate teachings to discover. Maybe there's new practices to do, wonderful states of mind and ultimate, powerful states of mind and psychedelics to take, all kinds of things you can do. But at least start off by learning not to suffer. And you get that over with, then you can do all kinds of things. But the motivation for doing them are different. Maybe because it's interesting or it helps society or the world. So the early tradition was all about non-clinging. And in that regard, the means to non-clinging was not to cling. So you start where you can. You start where it's easy. You come to you're driving down the road in your car and the traffic light is going yellow and going to turn red. And you could cling to get there quickly and rush through the yellow light or through the red light, and no one will notice. But right there's clinging. Or you're standing at the red light waiting and you're impatient and you're tapping your foot and you're pushing on your steering wheel like, come on, we gotta go. That's clinging. Can you at least let go of that clinging? No, that's asking too much. Yes, at least that I can do. Wow. You start there. And then you start spreading that non-clinging into more and more parts of your life. And then you discover that you can do it in certain ways in a higher quality, more thorough, deeper kind of way. You can do it better sometimes if you sit and meditate. If you sit quietly and close your eyes and really begin looking at where is the clinging, where is the tightness, and not just at traffic lights, but now just sitting there thinking about my past or my future or what I like or don't like or something. So we start expanding the clinging, the non-clinging into more and more of our life. So this is kind of where the goal and the means have a harmony, where the means and the way we practice, the path, is in harmony, is aligned with what the purpose of it is, where we're going. They're not separate. It's not one or the other. So it's a way of being able to hold both, to hold a way of being, to have a sense of the potential, to have a sense of a goal that doesn't put us out into the future, doesn't make it dualistic or separate from our life, but makes it something that we can experience and tap into moment by moment, right here and right now. Here's where it is. Right now, is there something you cannot cling to? Even just sitting here listening to me speak. Is there some kind of tension, some kind of holding, some kind of in your belly and your shoulders and your mind and your in your thoughts and your opinions of what I've been saying? Is there some clinging that it doesn't really need to be there? Can you let go? Can you relax? And or do you protest and say, no, I need to cling. This is important. What Gil's saying is ridiculous. And I have to protest, and I have to tell him my ideas and how it is. And he better stop talking and give a chance for questions and me to, tell him what's ultimate. He misunderstood. It's something important here. And it's possible you have wonderful things to say, but maybe you're clinging to saying it. Right there. So you don't have to stop wanting to say something. The idea is maybe you don't cling to it. That's where the practice is. And that transformation grows and matures until such a point in this two-stage model of awakening that the experience of non-clinging is so impactful. It can feel like the ultimate thing. Nothing seems more important, more ultimate, more healthy, more meaningful, more orienting, more like the North Star than anything else we know. we've let go so fully in a way we had no idea it was possible. It's not just at a traffic light. And did the sound go up and down a little bit? It's all staying good for you? Okay. I think I have to stop holding the machine. I think I'm messing with it. So there's this moment of this transformation that can happen where the experience of non-clinging is so powerful that it kind of never leaves you. It's kind of like always there as a reference point. It's like part of who you are. It's kind of like, I don't know if this comes to mind. I don't know if maybe it's a silly example, but you know, if you cut your hair, you shave your head, at least for a few days before it grows out a little bit, you know, you know you have no hair. It's like that's not going away at all. You might not think about it, you might not be involved in it, you might even forget about it for a moment until there's a cold wind across your scalp. Oh yeah, I don't have any hair. Yeah, that's how it is now. There's no hair. It's like it's with me now. So the same way, if in a sense you don't cut your hair, but you cut your attachments, and for a while before they grow out again or something, it's so clear. So wow, this is possible. I had no idea that it could be this degree of peace, this degree of presence, but it isn't. It doesn't like. Certainly attachments can come back after this first stage, but there's something that doesn't go away. There's some inner reference point for the quality, the characteristics, the capacity, the location in you of where there's a clear sense feeling for what is that the non-clinging is possible. It's like like it's with us, it lives with us all the time. And so now it's even more intimate in yourself and how we are, that the means and the goal are the same. Because now we know it's the same because we're always in touch with it. Everything we do is done with reference to that non-clinging. And this is what the early tradition talks about. It talks about with this kind of qualitatively different way of experiencing non-clinging, from then on, we all do this. We do the same practices of mindfulness, of concentration, cultivating equanimity and concentration and tranquility and equanimity. But those are all based on not clinging. Before that, there's so much clinging, attachment that people carry around with them all the time. There's so much they don't even know they have it. And so, you know, they don't even realize that they're clinging while they're doing their mindfulness practice. There's something, some hope, some expectation, some conceit, some idea of self. But then at some point you know it, you really, now I see non-clinging. Now I see clinging I see clinging more clearly. And it never goes away. It becomes the constant reference point for how to practice. And so so that changes the nature of practice. Practice becomes a lot easier. It becomes much more enjoyable and fun because you're not going to burden it with attachments and clinging. You have a feeling of, you have a feeling more and more that freedom is right here. Freedom is not in the future, it's already here. Let's do this. Let's keep doing the practice, but let's do the practice within that freedom, not to become free. And as we do this, then that maturation process continues, and we keep maturing until that becomes complete, that non-clinging. So in this way, these two things are the same. And are you up for me to say a little bit more? Have I talked enough? I have enough of you. I have enough of you. Your attention, because it's danger of people being a teacher for too long is they become, I've noticed this with us, older teachers, we become long-winded. And so I'll say, I have one more thing I want to say about this harmony of the practice and the goal. So, and this comes out of the early teachings. So the Eightfold Path is quite important in Buddhism. And generally, when people teach the Eightfold Path, they're talking about 8 practices that are practices that lead to liberation. So right there, you have this dualism. There's the practices and what practice where they're going to go, someplace else, something else. And so people will often teach the Eightfold Path to beginners. This is a beginning teaching for Buddhism. And so the Eightfold Path, if you don't know, is right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right concentration, and right mindfulness. And that's a mouthful, all those. Like, poor person is beginner. Like, I have to, whoa, this is a lot to remember, and this is what beginners have to do, and I have to get so busy, and I better get to work here because there's a lot to do. So the Eightfold, I don't want to diminish the value of the Eightfold Path as practices, and they're quite significant. But there's a whole other way of understanding the Eightfold Path that's presented in the early tradition. And that is that the Eightfold Path are not prescriptions for a cure, not prescriptions for the maturation, but they're descriptions of how a person lives if they've had a definitive experience of non-clinging, non-grasping, non-craving. That with the definitive experience of that, this becomes the natural way that comes out of us. That this is the way, we don't have to think about it, we don't have to want to do it. It just be out of non-clinging. This is the description of the behavior of someone who doesn't cling. Someone who doesn't cling avoids wrong speech. They do right speech. Someone who doesn't cling doesn't do the wrong intentions or not wrong resolves. Someone who doesn't cling doesn't does the right action. They avoid killing and stealing and lying and all these things. That someone who doesn't cling knows how to make effort. Now, that's right effort, not because they're trying to, but because it's an expression of non-clinging. When there's no clinging and we make effort, we're not going to insert clinging into it. We're just going to make this kind of natural, inspired effort to live a good life, to live a life of non-clinging. You can't cling to non-clinging. Or you can actually, but it doesn't work, right? The analogy I like to use for this is that if you go around spending your whole life with your hand fisted, and you find, it's like no one ever tells you you can release your hand and open up your hand and go with a fist. And it makes a nice impression on people when you go around like this. People step away from you and give you lots of space, and but after a while, it really hurts. You're always holding it tight and think it's important to maintain it. And every once in a while, you almost accidentally open up, but you notice it and you immediately grasp again because it's important. But slowly, slowly, someone teaches you. Slowly, someone comes along and holds your fist and supports you and loves you and lets you kind of finally feel safe and relaxed. And finally, the hand opens, and finally, the fist is completely open. Wow, this is nice. And wow, I had no idea that the inside of my hand is so sensitive and soft. And now that I've touched the world and touch other people, wow, it's so different than touching it with my closed fist. so tender and nice, and people respond differently when I touch them with my palm than my fist. Wow, this is a whole different life. This is really important. This open hand thing is so good. I better hold on to it. I got it. I'm not going to let go of it because it's so important. So to cling to non-clinging is like that. You lose the non-clinging in clinging. So the Eightfold Path then, in the teachings of the Buddha, are two-sided. They are the things we do as beginners. They really set the container, the conditions, the foundation for something important to happen and learning to non-cling. But at some point, the non-clinging becomes clear enough for us that we're living within, and it kind of in a way, we're living inside of non-clinging. And we're expressing that in a sense in how we live our life. And what it looks like from the outside is you're living by the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path becomes a description of someone who's mature rather than the means to become mature. So here you see again that the means, the way, the practices, and the goal are not so separate. They're closely connected. They're rising together. And so the lesson is, don't look for the goal anywhere but just right here. Maybe there's something that you can taste here and now, no matter how small. You can realize the goal of what all of Buddhism is about. Right now, if you're sitting thinking about, I don't know, thinking about what you should have for lunch and how it would be really nice to get that brand new form of fermented yogurt that's mixed with kimchi and get all, and get all my probiotics in one time. And this is like the newest thing. I can't wait to go and do it. And I'm thinking about it, and then you sit down to meditate, and you're thinking about kimchi and yogurt, and like this. I thought, I can't wait. Why, Gil? Why do I have to be here at Mountain Stream and meditating? And they might run out of them at the store. They're brand new. And right there, there's clinging, and right there, can you see the clinging? And can you discover the value of not holding on to that, not being obsessed with that, not tightening? Can you relax? I'm hoping that's an ordinary example of something small you can do. It could be smaller. It could be something really teeny. It could be that you sit here and start thinking, I too should have a tanka on my wall at home. And oh, I don't need to think that right now. Maybe it's true, but I've had that same thought 10 times already. I think I can let go of it. Right there, that letting go is not a small thing to do. It's not a silly thing. It's not inconsequential. Right there, you're tasting the heart of what Buddhism is about. Right there, you're tasting something of the goal of practice. You're getting a taste, a pre-taste of what awakening is. Because awakening is no different than that letting go being complete and full. That make sense? Okay. So let's take a little time. I don't know if it's what you need, but maybe a 5-minute time, if we can do it that way, just to stretch and get ready, and then we'll come back to meditate. And hopefully enough of you who need to go to the bathroom can go and in that 5 minutes. And if you don't really need to go, maybe don't. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I thought it was because I was holding it. Yeah, I felt like it was going up, in and out a little bit.
It's like it's coming back.
Oh,
I think it was just rubbing.
I think it was rubbing against
oh,
me.
okay. But
It should be okay.
you could have interrupted me.
If not, we'll just, if it keeps going, let's just switch right.
Yeah.
Sometimes this kind of oscillation of the volume has to do with low battery.
Yeah, that could be it too. I think
Switch the battery.
these are new batteries, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled it. I put it in space.
Yeah. Yeah, we think it
Are you Daniel?
Yes.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for helping.
Yeah, I think it was just, it looked from there, over there, it looked small, but actually. It was, right. I think so. If it starts again. It's probably. Like, Sorry, I didn't introduce you. I was trying to get on the.
It's fine.
It's great. Thank you. Nice. I'm really enjoying it. Great. How many copies? Well, let's get to the sensation of
Well, what I didn't say, I should have said, that his early teachings,
Yeah.
the definition of a wise person is that not that is that they understand their suffering. They understand how they get caught. That's what wisdom is. It's not like wisdom is some great metaphysical principle or ideas, oneness or something. It's really understanding the problem. So
Yeah, how we get caught.
yeah, correct. So the fact that they do that here, it's sensible, but there should be the other side too.
So when you got into the non-clinging part,
Yeah.
I thought that this could be called the Jonathan Livingston,
The what?
the Jonathan Livingston Eagle thought.
Oh, nice.
Dharma talk, you know, about the clinging
Yeah,
and the letting
yeah.
go.
Great. Very nice.
Cold water,
Maybe fill this up.
the hot water. Cold water. You have a tea bag in there? You have a tea bag in there? No, just one.
Just cold water.
Cold water.
Have you been?
Just got back from my.
So you get a little break. Probably need a break from the time.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're back to back there.
But aren't you helping someone do work here?
What's that?
Aren't you helping someone do some work here?
Yeah, my
So-
friend bought the property here.
So you were helping do this. So you come, you're working there and then work here. With this is more fun.
Spacious. Not taking care of them. Just one property, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Want me to ring the bell outside? and get everybody in?
Yes, that'd be nice.
Yeah, we can ring it in here. Have you been to my?
No. But apparently it's right off the Colorado Trail. Continental Trail, yeah. Interesting. How long have you been?
I think you were up and down here.
And here's yeah, that's where I'm going.
It's a wonderful person. What to do? Next August. Yeah, last August, post August, next August. I don't know. If it's gonna be. I really. Yeah, definitely. The fact of the beauty of the property, you're right there under it. In the morning, sometimes I meditate out to the lawn. We look up at the sun. Meditating at the evening, so you get to the fire.
I need to make sure the mic doesn't link here.
So there are some chats. Are you looking at them? Anything I should know?
It was mostly about sound.
Oh, they were clicking too? Uh, I'm,
Was that?
I'm interruptible.
Okay.
So I'm gonna here. So I use the word non-clinging a lot. And I was told that when I write, we shouldn't use the same word over and over again. Maybe in Dharma talks too. So there's a lot of words that are alternatives to clinging and non-clinging. There's grasping and craving and being attached. And then there's words like letting go, non-craving. And there's a family of words that have to do with liberation, awakening, freedom, letting go, release. And maybe surprising enough, one of the words in that family, related family of non-clinging, is to relax, to calm. And the tradition often begins meditation practice with the practice of calming the body. And I love the word calming the body because it's partly it's maybe relaxing the body, but also calming is something that's kind of pervades the body, spreads through the body. If you can let your calm your body, I think many people will kind of become a little bit more internal, and that internal sense of themselves they maybe spread, or there's a glow, or there's a kind of a suffusion of something that feels calmer, something lets go, relaxes. But so this process of learning about non-clinging, learning about clinging and non-clinging, can begin sometimes with relaxing and with the body becoming calm. And then the tradition goes on and talks about the next step is to enjoy that, to enjoy the relaxing, enjoy how being calmer in the body is nice, to enjoy the letting go of tension that we hold in our body, that it kind of, to the degree to which that creates kind of a nice feeling, you're allowed to enjoy that and feel that. That it's valuable to feel the benefits of non-clinging. So you kind of are informed by that, you're influenced by that, you're educated by them. Oh, this is possible. And then the tradition talks about calming or relaxing the mental tensions we have. And sometimes I call that, some of you have heard me talk about, call it relaxing the thinking muscle. So we'll start this way. I'll do some guided meditation around these things I just said, and then we'll take it a little bit further. So to assume a meditation posture that is right for you, or perhaps a posture that expresses alertness, that the posture itself, if someone saw you from the outside, or if you feel yourself from the inside, you feel like your torso, your chest, your rib cage, your spine is a little bit activated, a little bit engaged. So there's a nice feeling of the body being alert. And if it's comfortable, to close your eyes. And to begin now with simply becoming aware of yourself, where it's a just simple process of familiarity, familiarizing yourself with your own experience of yourself. Scanning around the body, scanning around the heart, and scanning around the mind. And is there any of your experience where you have some clinging, some resistance, some judgment, some liking or not liking, some idea it should be different, some idea that you want to stay this way, where there might be something that you're attached to? And if there's some attachment, some clinging, rather than getting rid of it, What would it feel like? What would it be like to not cling to clinging, to have no attachment in relationship to how you're attached? Letting it be. And then becoming aware of your breathing. Becoming aware of the body's experience of breathing. And feeling your way into what for you might be the very center of breathing, or for you, some point in your body where the breathing begins, in-breath begins. And then from the center, beginning point of breathing, take some little bit longer inhales, extended inhales, but not too much. Just to stay in the comfortable range. And then allow the exhale also to be extended by letting go or releasing more at the end of the exhale. And then as you exhale, see if there can be some global relaxing of your body. Relaxing in the belly. Relaxing in the shoulders. As you exhale, softening the face and the eyes. As you exhale, relaxing the thinking muscle. Perhaps the tension, pressure associated with thinking. Relaxing the thinking mind as if the mind is a wave that settles out, spreads out flat and wide. Water that becomes quiet and still. And as you breathe, if possible, if there's any relaxing of breathing itself, relax into a natural way of breathing. relaxing the whole body. Allowing breathing to have a calming effect on your whole system. Breathing in, spreading a calm, or whatever degree of calm you have. The in-breath is almost like a gentle breeze that fans the flames of calm, spreads it. And on the exhale, spreading calm, calming the body. And as you breathe, feeling into your body for the pleasure or the well-being that might be in your body. The pleasure of calming, the well-being that exists for any degree of non-clinging you have. Breathe with the pleasure of calm. Breathe with the sense of well-being, of relaxing and not clinging. And then as you continue breathing in and breathing out, maybe imagining that you're doing so, breathing through your mind. Not the contracted mind, but the spacious mind. The sense of mind that has no boundaries and limits, no edges. Breathe into that mind and, and as you exhale, let there be a calming of the mind. And as you breathe in and breathing out, have your breathing, you're right there accompanying whatever well-being there is in your mind, whatever healthy feeling there is, or where in the mind there's no clinging. Don't worry about clinging you have. Notice the places of non-clinging. At any given moment, there is vastly more things you don't cling to than what you cling to. In this universe, there's a lot of things we don't even know we can cling to. Can you breathe into the calm, the peace that might be there in your non-clinging that's always there? Or do you allow your clinging to cover everything? Do you prioritize your attachments so there's no room for anything else? And then as we get to the end of the sitting, look around inside, in your mind, in your heart, in your belly. Is there any place inside, deep inside, where there's a, a desire to let go? Might not be you want to let go, but something deeper in you than you. Is there something inside, any feeling of a wish, an aspiration, a movement to let go deeply? And if there is, no need to think about it. But see if you can breathe into it, breathe with it. And with your breathing, let this desire be recognized. And then, without thinking about it, without hesitation, trusting it's possible, let go. Let go. Let go of the deepest, the oldest attachment you have, even for a few moments. Let go. And then to end this sitting, to gently take some deeper breaths and feel your body again. Feel your body against your cushion in a chair. Recognize that you're here in this room. And for those of you online, recognize you're in your sitting space. And when you're ready, you can open the eyes, and I'll end the sitting with a bow instead of a bell for the sake of people on Zoom. So it's 10:30. The idea is to take a 30-minute break. And it might be nice if maybe the beginning of the break was silent. And then in some natural, and so don't speak in this room here, and then wait a little bit before you start talking. And I don't know when the talking part is supposed to start, but maybe it'll happen naturally. But let's start in silence. And then we'll start again in here at 11 o'clock. Thank you. And I'll stay here. So if you want to talk to me, you can come up.
Check, check.
So begin to gather together, and I'll use my most profound things to say now, so that people who didn't make it back have some consequence. And so people start learning to come back on time. I did want to follow up with something. So this whole topic of practice, the path, and the goal, and the relationship to it is a very rich topic to explore and to discuss and kind of live with. There's no like final answer, like this is how it is. It's part of a whole ecology of practice, and that ecology is like an ecosystem or an ecosystem, like just all these different elements, and hopefully there's no invasive species. Those that we can take out maybe, but we want to live in this beautiful ecosystem, and the path and the goal are part of the ecosystem, and they morph and change in different ways at different times, and how we relate to it. And there's not like one way. The one way school is the attachment to views. The one way school is the attachment to, this is what's ultimate or something. But then you know that in an ecosystem, all the elements are important. So all the different parts are needed for it to work in a healthy way. So in Buddhism, I think of Buddhism as one big ecosystem. And and many of you who know enough about Theravada Buddhism have been frustrated by all the numerical lists. But the numerical lists, many of them turn out to be not things like 5 things, but actually different processes or elements in the ecosystem. And if you begin understanding how they work as members of an ecosystem and how things morph and change and relate to them, they come alive in yourself in a very different way than if you're just like an abstract list of things. So this idea of path and goal, they can be held apart and be very different from each other. And they can be brought together like I tried to do this morning so that they're somehow operate together as well. They're not so separate from each other. And there's a third option, which is also very important in the ecosystem. And that is there's the kind of also a way in which they're bridged. There's a kind of a path in the middle. There's kind of a bridge in the middle between them that's also important to understand. And it takes this form. It's to paraphrase the Buddha, he said, I don't tell you to let go of everything. If letting go has unhealthy consequences for you, he uses the word unwholesome, akusala. If letting go has unhealthy consequences for you, I don't tell you to let go of that. If letting go is healthy for you, has wholesome consequences for you, I tell you to let go. And he has a whole series of things he talks about that way. Surprisingly, one of them is a word, the word atta is the Pali word for self. And in our kind of Theravadan modern world, atta is almost like a 4-letter word that, you're not supposed to have the self. It's supposed to somehow, there's no self and you just you don't count. And but there's no teaching like that in the early tradition. But there's this word atta bhava, which I translate as selfhood. And there the Buddha says, I don't tell you to let go. I don't tell you to cultivate a selfhood, which is unhealthy for you. But I do tell you to cultivate a selfhood which is healthy for you, which is beneficial, does support you. And this ability that we can discern for ourselves what is wholesome and unwholesome, what is beneficial and not beneficial, what is healthy and not healthy in this ecosystem, is something that we're supposed to be able to become a teacher for ourselves. Some deep kind of, deep sensing and feeling and recognition. Well, this feels healthy. This is nourishing. This is beneficial. This is opening. This is freeing versus the opposite. And if you can see that distinction and choose the healthy side of that divide, that's the bridge between the path of practice and the goal of liberation or freedom. And right there, you're also practicing both, because to not do what is unhealthy and let go of that and have the choice to pick up and do what's healthy, that takes a certain degree of freedom. And freedom is not only not doing something, freedom is also found in the choice you make to do something that's healthy, that's wise, that's good. So a wise person knows how to make this distinction. And what that means is that there's not like one answer, like this is the way Buddhists do it. Do this. It's more like, is it healthy or is it not healthy? Is how I do it healthy or how I do it unhealthy? And I have to kind of be able to discern that. So again, there's another way in which we don't cling to views or what's ultimate. We're paying attention to consequences. We're paying attention to how things unfold and where they come from in ourselves. And that way, finding some other guide for our life than our preferences, another guide from our life than than our opinions, another guide to our life besides whatever the books tell us. We become the book by reading ourselves. That make sense? So, so I invited Adam to say a few things. I invited him to be up here. I thought I was invited to come here and then to do this. And then I thought that at some point I thought that it was so nice with John up here last night. I wanted to, to have the same fun with Adam with the last year. And then also I thought it was also important to have him because it's also a fundraiser for Mountain Stream. And then Adam sits in the middle and the caretaking the whole scene. And I thought that to have the resident teacher sharing with the fundraiser is actually quite important and delightful. So
Thank you, Gil. And yeah, again, my name is Adam Stonebraker, and I'm the guiding teacher here. And I just really appreciate everyone showing up. It's just so incredible, and to hear the sounds of Sangha at the break, and it's just really, really beautiful. It warms my heart. And thank you for all of you who've shown up online. And yeah, though you're not here with us, you are here with us because you're up on the screens and we can see you all, and you're very, very much a part of this. Yeah, yeah, wave. And Gil, thank you so much because I feel very supported in how you've supported me in this role, and your advocacy for Mountain Stream and your love for John is just really inspiring. So thank you so much for being here and continuing to come here. It was funny yesterday. We when Gil showed up, we Lauren and me and him sat in the dining room, the tea room, and just talked about today and what we would the schedule and things like this. And Gil kind of spoke the title of this event, which is From Here to Here and Beyond, the harmony of path and goal in the Buddhist teachings. And then he looked at me and said, "What does that mean?" So it sounds like he figured it out. We're nice.
oh no, I forgot about the beginning part of the title. They're going to want their money back now.
The beyond part, yeah. And so Gil asked me to say just a few words that maybe complemented what he was talking about today. And what kind of showed up for me, what I was thinking about was when he started talking about if we want to become more generous, we practice generosity. Or when we want to become more compassionate, we practice compassion. Or when we want to become more mindful, we practice mindfulness. And that sounds really easy. And it is in a sense. But what I found in my own practice, especially when I first began, when I wanted to become a meditator, I started to meditate. And soon, it started off pretty good, but soon into it, I started to question myself. Maybe I'm not a very good meditator because my mind was so busy. And so it felt like I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse at meditation. And so the same thing happens when we're practicing generosity. We start to, okay, I'm going to practice generosity. I'm going to start being more generous. We soon discover how ungenerous we actually are. And that's part of the practice. That is the path and the goal in one. And you're not actually becoming less generous, and we're not becoming worse meditators. We're actually becoming more aware of what's actually here, the things that have been influencing us for a very long time and influencing decisions or unconscious choices and all of these things arise within us without us knowing. And so on this path of awareness and more mindfulness and more generosity and more patience, patience is a big one. You practice patience, you really start to discover how impatient you actually are. And so all of these things start to arise and we can get very frustrated. So maybe I'm just not a generous person. Maybe I'm just not compassionate. Maybe I'm not a meditator. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this Buddhist thing at all. I should do something else. And so we can find ourselves hopping around in avoidance of these various things, or we can feel like we're getting discouraged. And this really comes from this place of clinging to an ideal of a self that we think we should be, rather than seeing what's actually here. Because once we start to commit and devote ourselves to this practice, when these things start to arise, we see things for what they are. That becomes the very material for practice. And so we continue with this, and we continue to become more and more generous and more generous, and we continue to be more and more aware. And soon our expectations of how we think we should be start to fall away, though it's still there, of course. And the actual generosity or the mindfulness or the meditation starts to come forward in a more profound way. And that's the beauty of practice. That's the journey of the path and the goal. It's right there, and that very scene. And so this made me think of this in the Buddhist teachings, the simile of the raft, and maybe not the part that you think, but when the person comes to the shore, and there's this expanse they have to get across, they have this idea, I need to make a raft to get across. And so in the sutta it says, so they think of gathering the leaves and the sticks and everything that's around to make this raft. And I was just thinking about that. It's not like he had to go to the hardware store and get like the perfect waterproof wood and the right ropes and everything correct and waterproof this and make this perfect raft. No, this person gathered what was right in front of them, what was around them, the leaves and the grass and the twigs and the sticks and the things that were just here. That's our practice. We use what's here. We use what arises when we become still. We use the hindrances. We use all of these things that we think are actually in the way. They actually become the path themselves. They actually become the way to get across the expanse. And then when you get to the other side, perhaps, like it says in the sutta, or actually on the way there, the Buddha does say there's a clinging that is there. There's a clinging, you're clinging to this raft because you have to get across. So you cling to the raft. But once you get to the other side, you don't sit there and admire the raft or take it with you. The Buddha recommends leaving it there and moving on. Path and goal, right there. And so I think this is just a really beautiful way that Gil has introduced us today. There's not it's not in the future, because if there's something always in the future, then it will always be in the future. It's about realizing what's here right now and then using the material that comes up in response to that as our path to waking up. So one of the best ways for this to happen is in community. Because community is far from perfect. When we come into community, we bump up against not only our stuff arising in the moment, but everybody else's stuff that arises in the moment. And then we come and we can get discouraged at times because it's not, my ideal of harmony isn't here, or my ideal of community isn't here, or I have all these ideas that I think, they should be this particular way aren't here. So maybe I just don't belong. And maybe that's just not the case. This is why we practice together. I love this image that Thich Nhat Hanh had of on how to wash chopsticks. It'll make sense here in a minute. He says, you don't take each, in the monastery, there's hundreds of people and they, you have all the chopsticks in this bin with water. He's like, you don't take each chopstick out and wash each one. And then maybe you do, but this is just about, but he said the best way to do it is you take all the chopsticks and you shake it. You shake it, and all the chopsticks, they hit up against each other and they knock all the food off, and it kind of, they clean one another. And that was his symbol for community. We're cleaning one another. And so sometimes it can get kind of frustrating, like, people are just
Does that make
frustrated.
you the shaker?
Maybe I'm the water that just gets really dirty afterwards. But I think that's just a really beautiful symbol of what community is and how the practice becomes the path every time we come here on a Monday night and something annoying happens. That's there. It's hitting something in us. There's not something wrong there. There's something being shown to us, and that practice with that becomes the path. Yeah. So I think my 10 minutes are up now. But again, just thank you all so much for being here, and it's very heartening to have you all here and to be in community with you. So thank you.
So now it's your turn. If you have questions or comments or want to have a discussion with Adam and I, please. It would be nice for you to have the questions be kind of more or less go back and forth between us. I don't want to sit here, with no one asking me anything.
And if you can raise your hand, this is Jen from the hall. If you can raise your hand in the hall, I'll pass the microphone, and that way the folks on Zoom can hear what we're saying in the hall. And if folks who are on Zoom would like to raise a hand, we'll be happy to call on you as well. Okay, and Daniel, Magical Daniel in the back, if you can keep an eye on people on Zoom who may be trying to get attention, because we're not seeing all the Zoom participants on the screen in this hall.
Also, if they want to write something in the chat, I have my computer here. I can read it off as well.
Perfect. Okay. From the hall first. You start with your name.
Hi, I'm Douglas, and Gil, you shared something very interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard before how the Eightfold Path, more than like a moral guidance system or a way of ethically behaving, it's more of an emanation or a natural result of kind of non-clinging. And I wondered, or maybe of the third noble truth, the cessation of suffering. I wonder if you have more to say about the goal and the path and the goal concerning that Eightfold Path comment.
Yeah. Well, the so I mentioned that in the early tradition there's supposed a 4-stage model of awakening and the 2-stage model. I kind of like the 2-stage model, and with a 2-stage model, it's there's this kind of very clear, definitive experience of non-clinging that changes a person's life when it becomes different. And one of those is that um, that person now can be described as not practicing the Eightfold Path, but being the Eightfold Path. So that's so you use the word emanation. It's kind of who we are because of the nature of that non-clinging. You need to cling in order to do the opposite to the Eightfold Path.
It seems like there might be a change of perspective
Also,
that occurs to be able to experience being the Eightfold Path
I think so. I mean,
rather than practicing.
I love it what you said it, but since you introduced the word perspective, how do you understand that there's a change of perspective?
That one of the clinging could be clinging to the ongoing commentary that I'm somehow important and special because I'm on this path to awakening without ever getting there. I'm always on the path of attempting to awaken, but to actually achieve the goal is something that requires a change of perspective from practicing to being.
Nice. Great. Thank you. Very nice.
Okay.
Hi, Rolita. Thank you for being here. I hesitated to ask this quicker because I think I'm supposed to know the answer to this. When you talked about the Buddha saying that you cling when something is right for you. I'm paraphrasing. You don't cling when it's not right for you. And that's something I started pondering. It sounds so simple. And I'm interested in knowing more about that because when I think about it, is that a conviction that if I do cling to what I think is good, is it a conviction? Because sometimes my convictions might be hurtful to someone else
Yeah.
that I want to help.
Yes.
So how do I define that?
Yeah. A good question. And maybe it's hopefully I'm answering it appropriately. That I don't think the Buddha ever said, if it's healthy for you to cling, cling. If it's healthy for you, don't cling. If it's healthy, do it. But if it's not healthy, don't do it. He said, if letting go is healthy for you, do it. If letting go is unhealthy, but it's a kind of flip side. So I can see someone would interpret it like the way you did, but I don't know if we want to validate clinging that kind of way. And the reason is that clinging itself is unhealthy. If you're if you really understand clinging, you would recognize it's actually unhealthy to do this.
Yes, I'm corrected. That's what I meant to say, letting go and not
Yeah.
letting go.
Yeah.
After you just talked about clinging, so sorry. But how does one determine, I mean, is it conviction? Is it how do we know when it's right? I mean, I guess a judgment, the more experience we have, the older we get, we learn. I often think about how I affect other people. And so I may feel like letting go or not letting go, but I don't want to hurt the next person.
Right.
So, how do we know it's right? I guess that's a wide open question with a lot of answers. I don't know,
Yeah, but
but it stuck with me.
But my favorite answer is that is that as we cultivate awareness practice, the contemplative practices, the self-awareness practices, and really get to know ourselves really well, including be really embodied. Really, the body, your physical body, is not just a hunk of flesh. The physical body is a is a in your the physical body that we can have a direct experience of is an extension of the mind. The mind is our whole nervous system, not just what's in the brain. So the nervous system spreads throughout all the nerves in the body, and they all coordinate. They all come together and work together. So if you feel heat on your hand, the mind is right there with the ability to feel the heat or the contact or whatever. And so the nervous system is taking in all this information. So if we're only from the head up, the conscious awareness, we're not in touch with all the information the body is taking in. So to be embodied, to really have mindfulness of the body, we start taking in so much more data and letting it really register and be processed in the whole ecosystem of who we are. So as we become more aware in this way, there's more information that we're provided. And at some point, you become very sensitive to how it feels unhealthy or how it feels unhealthy. And if you just want to lie because it's the most important thing in the world is to lie and get away with, getting too much change at the store. Because it's nice to have change. But if you're really and then you're happy you got this free money and oh, look at me, and that's all surface responses. That's like kind of like from the neck up. But if you're really sensitive, you'll feel that to lie in that circumstance just feels awful. You feel how it twists you, it changes you or hurts you. And so you say, oh, this is not good. I'm much better to be honest. Yeah, you gave me too much change. Let me give it back to you. I'm sorry you had to ask. And so I think the reference point is not judgments from the neck up kind of judgments, but a deep discernment, a deep sensitivity that lets us see the difference between what feels deeply healthy and deeply unhealthy. Does that make sense? And the same thing, as we have the more of this data we can take in from our whole body, take in the environment more fully, we actually tune into other people in different ways too. And we can somehow feel or sense more of their joy, their suffering, their state of mind, their effect we have on them, and how to meet that in a way that's healthy for us too.
That helps a lot. Thank you. I sometimes with my mom, I think I'm supposed to help someone. And then my heart afterwards feels heavy because I've done, or the opposite. I don't want to help, but then I'm heavy if I don't. And so, yeah, so I'm following, I'm sensing what I'm feeling deeply more so than, yeah.
So I've seen in myself, I've learned that I've made a lot of mistakes with socially by rushing to judgment, rushing to speak, and not taking the time to really notice how my friend is and where they're at and what's going on. And so I try now to really, before I answer, before I do something, is to really check in. How is this person? What's happening in their life? And where are they at? I mean, maybe not with all those questions, but just to take time so that I know, oh, this is a time to help them do something, change their flat tire, and okay, this seems appropriate. Uh, oh no, this is clearly something they need to do themselves. And so they have to figure out how to do this. Yeah, there's all these pile of dishes in the sink, and I could help. I could do the dishes, but this is like a life issue for them, the dirty dishes. I think I'm better not. This is what people are always coming and doing the dishes. This person needs to really grow up and around these dishes and take responsibility. So this is the one I'm not going to help with.
Hi, Lou. Um, my introduction to Buddhism was much later in life, and I was very impressed with his lists. And I began collecting lists upon lists and found them really helpful, insightful. I thought he was an incredible observer, perceptive. And the more familiar I became with the practice, the more it reaffirmed what I had been practicing throughout my life, somewhat successfully, somewhat unsuccessfully, but it's almost like the norms were laid out in such a clear way that it was very self-affirming. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the self that is within, and I'll call it wise, discerning, that we carry.
Uh-huh. But let's let Adam have a chance now. I don't want it to all be here. It's my direction. So
Sure, I'll talk about not self. Um, first, I want to say I think that's really beautiful, your question, and I love how the Buddha described himself too as someone who didn't create something, but actually discovered something that was natural, that was already there, and that I really love that. I like you. I know Gil refers to him as a naturalist, and I like to refer to the Buddha as a naturalist. Yeah, I have the same questions as you, and there kind of is this, you know, habit of no self, of saying there's no self in Buddhism, and what does that mean? But as Gil said, and from my reading, the Buddha never said anything like that. I don't think he ever denied a psychological self. I mean, we all need a self to operate in this world. I mean, it'd be very, very difficult and incredibly impractical to not have a self. So we all have a self. And I think much of the Buddhist teachings is about actually cultivating a healthier relationship with the world. And if we're not, what are we cultivating if there's not, some sort of self there? So that's where I'm going with the question. But I'd love to hear what Gil has to say.
well, it might be useful to be very careful with the vocabulary. And so earlier I talked about, atta is the self that the Buddha mostly is not affirming. He's not denying, but he's not affirming. And but in the ancient context, atta was probably closer to our word soul than it is to our modern psychological word, the word self. So it's very confusing if people hear the teaching of not self and they're associating too much with the psychological self, that they're missing the original context for what it's about. But but if also even in the West though, the word self is a magnet for all kinds of problems, all kinds of ideas of what we're supposed to be as a self, and a good self and a bad self, and all kinds of things. So if you change the vocabulary, sometimes it can help. So I mentioned that atta and then atta bhava, which I called selfhood. Another way I've some translation I've used sometimes is personhood. And as soon as you say, yeah, you're supposed to have a strong personhood, you're supposed to develop your personhood, you can't quite touch it. You can't like get to the like what is personhood? It's kind of like where's Nevada City? Like where's that? If you could put your finger exactly at what really is truly the center of Nevada City, where do you put your finger? And just Nevada City doesn't really exist except in the concept that people have created. And and so the self doesn't exist in the way that you can put the finger on something. Personhood is kind of vague, but it allows for the ecosystem. There's a kind of an integrous ecosystem of personhood of who we are. And that we want to caretake for. No one else is going to do it. It's unique to us. But don't cling to any of it. Don't take any of the parts and make the part the whole. Does that address your topic?
Great. We have a friend on Zoom named Karen who's raised her hand.
Oh, hello. I'm Karen. I live in Quincy. My question is sort of about an experience that I had just recently. I was part of a booth at the Plumas County Fair. We were the Quincy Indivisible booth and the Plumas Democrat booth, and there was also a Republican booth. And so my question is, so I thought I'm not usually good at talking to people who have different views than me. But I thought I'll go talk to these Republican women, and they're important parts of the community, and so I would just ask them questions like, why do you like Trump? And so the things they would say were just abhorrent to me.
Hmm.
And and I just kind of listened and I just said, well, I just kind of disagree. And then after I talked to them a bit, and then I went back to our booth, and one of the ladies came over and said, we can probably agree on certain things. Maybe we should get together. And I thought, no way do I want to do that. Anyway, my question is sort of like, it's just obviously I'm really attached to my views. They're really attached to their views. And so kind of, I don't know, it's just a question is what is a kind of a best way to deal to work with this, in your own community?
Yeah, what a great thing. I love it that she came over to you to look for the common ground.
Yeah, I
The,
know.
the, I think that's important. People want to be known and seen for their personhood, not for their opinions. I mean, they might think they want to be seen for their opinions that because they identify so strongly with it. But there's something deep inside of people who really wants to be seen as a person in their personhood and their fullness and be respected and be respected for their ability to have choices and to be able to be heard and be respected. And so the question is, how do we meet people not through their views, but for the deepest feeling of this is a human being with a full personhood. So it might be that the question about Trump is a red herring. Of course, if you ask about Trump, you're already biased. You're already setting up something that's going to be problematic. But if you instead ask about you're here as representing the Republican Party, and I'm here representing Democratic Party. Both of us probably love this country, and we just have a different orientation for it. But I wonder, what are the underlying values you have for your political involvement? And then you're talking about values, and that now you're talking about a different dimension. Their values are deeper and more important part of them, and maybe more enduring. And then you can have it hear and listen to them in a deeper way. And if you hear about why Trump is, so great, or Gavin Newsom is so great, or something that people would shut off and they're already to be in conflict. But if you ask them about their values, then it's get interesting and you can have a whole different conversation. And by the time you leave, you feel a sense of like you want to say, thank you. That was wonderful to meet you. As opposed to say, well, I guess it's hopeless here.
Thank you.
And so I think the Buddhist way I like to believe is we're trying to relate to the personhood, the full person there, not through views, not through those, the narrower scope where people are in conflict with each other. And then later we can meet around that conflict because we know each other better. We know the values. We know how to respect each other. And maybe we agree to disagree, or we understand it. We understand better why they have this belief, political belief or anything. And we see what they're trying to accomplish. And maybe all they want to do is to have a situation where they can feel like they can run their business without a lot of interference from the local government. And so, well, there's a whole reason why that's a so-called interference. It maybe is a sophisticated, important thing, but now you understand them and say, oh, your business is important for you, and you'd like to have some freedom there to do it. And I wonder if there's ways that we can satisfy everything. We can satisfy how to have enough safety and for the community, and how to have you have more freedom in your business. And there's a whole different conversation going on that maybe there's possible to find commonality and some way to work together rather than always be in loggerheads.
Thank you.
I just want to, this reminds me of a story of from Ajahn Chah that my teacher Kidasaro likes to tell. And apparently at his monastery, there was a nun who converted to Christianity, and not only Christianity but a very evangelical form of Christianity.
As a nun,
as a Buddhist nun. And so she was still living at the monastery, and she started to try to convert people. She was and this infuriated Ajahn Sumedho, who was Ajahn Chah's first Western disciple. And so there, all the monks and the nuns were in this, uproar over this woman who converted to Christianity. It just seems so weird. It seems so weird to think about. So this group of monks went to Ajahn Chah to let him know and tell him, that we need to kick this person out and all this stuff. So they told him, and he just took a moment and he sat there and then he said, well, maybe she's right. And it just threw them so much, and that they finally saw her, as Gil was just saying, as a person, and that whatever she found here was fulfilling something within her, and she was excited about it. And so getting to those base motivations, those base feelings, those needs as a human being, they were finally able to see her as a person. So I thought that was a really, really beautiful story.
One more hand up over here.
Kevin and Gil, thank you for, I have a question that's sort of related to Karen's, and I really appreciate the equanimity that you just shared. And so for me, I've been sort of stuck in this clinging storm that occurred when I peered in Wednesday to a Senate hearing that just absolutely enraged me. And my responses were alarming. It was all internal. And it was like wild horses just are running free in my mind. And it's really a sort of an attachment to view, a collision of values with a freaking computer. I mean, I'm never going to see these people. Our paths are never going to cross. And my own reactions have been very dismaying. So any suggestions? I mean, part of me says you just have to wait it out. It's one of these rumination storms that I recognize. I've been here many times.
No, don't just wait it out.
All right. So
you have to take responsibility for the suffering you're contributing to the world.
But even if it's internal, huh?
You're part of the world.
Okay.
You're contributing to suffering. You want to, the wonderful this idea that for each of us, now it's too loud. It's a lot of this feed. No, I'm getting all this feedback, and I am hard of hearing. So is that okay now? You still hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in Buddhism, for each of us, the world begins with you. The world of your direct experience begins with you. And only we can be responsible for that personal world that begins with us. If you want to change the world, be sure to change yourself. It's very sad to have so much suffering in the world, and then people's response to the suffering is to suffer more. people's response to a world of anger is to be angry in addition. We can't just be the problem ourselves, replicating it in ourselves. If we want to see a real change in this world, we have to become different. We have to change and be a model that it's possible. If you can't change, how are we going to change the set? So I think you have to take responsibility. And the more that you got upset, I respect it, of course, it's understandable. The more opportunity is for you to really take a deep dive into yourself and undergo a remarkable transformation that'll be good for you and good for the world. I want to hear a little bit. Is that okay what I said? Or
Oh, sure, of course. But I think I'm sort of wondering, okay, so what does that look like?
well, there's many answers to that. And maybe I'm allowed to offer one answer, since we're in a Buddhist meditation center, is practice mindfulness, meditation, self-reflection, and really delve deeply into your inner life, where that anger comes from. Because it's not just anger, there's a whole inner ecology that's connected to. Was something inside of you threatened? Was something inside of you deeply hurt? Did that Senate thing touch a pre-existing hurt in you that you've been carrying with you for a long time? What is it that you have to address and meet and care for in yourself at the layers deeper, that's the source for this volcano? And so this, practice a lot with it. Don't ignore this. Don't kind of try to stop doing it. Really stop and feel it and be with it. And maybe there's people, good friends, wise friends that you can kind of talk to about and say that, and really explore, what is your relationship to anger? What are the things that trigger anger in you? And where does it come from? And what happened in your life that you have this relationship to anger? Is it something you learned in your family of birth, that you got some conditioning around, that this is how you respond? There's so much to learn here. To do the work of inner learning is a very, very important thing to do. And it begins clearing the ground so you can take this practice deeper.
That's very helpful. I appreciate that. And as you're speaking, I recognize that, for me, it was really a sort of values seemed to be threatened by sort of what I heard and what I saw taking place. And you're right, Gil, that's at the surface. So underneath there's, where the emotion sort of enlivens that division.
Yeah.
So
So the first thing, you really need to know it, and then learn to hold it in a different way.
Right.
So it doesn't lead to this kind of really unnecessary, but certainly common response.
Thank you. Very helpful.
So we have about 8 minutes left.
I had a question that's comment or sparked. I was wondering about, where does letting go fit into that? Because I would think, okay, the emotion of anger comes up and then let it go. And isn't that enough?
I think letting let it go. I was good at letting go of anger, but it just kept reappearing because I didn't see the deeper aspects of what was going on under the surface. So I had to spend time getting to know my anger better by not letting go of it. And I had to allow it to be there and to stay so I can really explore it and find out what was going on. So it's possible to let go prematurely before we really understood. Ideally, letting go is not a policy. Ideally, letting go happens when you've done the deep inner work, where you recognize that something deep inside of you sees the value of letting go, or almost like you feel the desire to let go. letting the holding on wants to let go of itself. Right in the middle of the clinging. If you really feel clinging really, really well, you'll feel that clinging has a momentum inside of it to let go. And at some point, the practice is just about giving into what wants to happen.
Thank you.
Maybe maybe this can be the last one. I saw there were some more hands that seemed really eager. But maybe I can stay after. Are they okay?
I have a question, comment kind of thing.
Hold on one second. We have 7 things happening all at once. Let me pass the mic to Maeve.
I just read a metaphor of the Odyssey, which I'm not going to go see, but because I want to see all the violence. But that it's like represents 3 things. One is the journey home. And the second part of it is that journey home is driven by a longing for something that we can't quite touch into. And the third part is that in order to get there, when you get close to home, you have to deal with the violence and the disruption and all the demons that we carry inside in order to have clear seeing. And so you have to go take that deep dive and really be curious and explore with compassion, but to really clear the air so that then you can come home. And I thought that was a really interesting way to
very nice.
Look at that.
Very nice. Thank you. So,
sorry.
So I think that I'm sorry. There's someone over here wanted to speak.
Yeah,
But-
Jenny
but-
was hoping, but go ahead.
Can you do it afterwards? Come up. Okay. So I want to say a few things kind of as in conclusion and here. First, thank you. I mean, I very much, I love coming here. The second year I've come, and I think Mountain Stream has is really a phenomenal place. And you know, if I go around the country or see different places with different centers and different, it's quite unique and special here. And it's really special and unique that the transition from the founding teacher John to Adam has gone so well. It's quite phenomenal that Adam showed up to somehow he and John have a heart connection. It's a wonderful thing that they have this kind of wonderful kind of similar kind of overlap or heart connection that he could pass it on to someone like that who kind of could holds this place in some of this big heart way that John held at this place. And I think it's phenomenal that this transitions from one teacher is actually quite a difficult thing for places to do. And this seems to be going very well overall. I know there's a teeny bit of problems here and there, but if there wasn't any problems, then it's not worth having. And the problems we meet, just like we meet our own inner lives, we want to meet the communal challenges too and be able to talk about it and find them. But it's really impressive what you have here, and it's easy to take it for granted, I think. Which it's so easy to do if you just come every day or once a week or whatever you come, just here. So, it's just but it needs to be supported. And I wanted to appreciate Adam in this role. And not only is it remarkable that transition from John to Adam was as smooth as it was. That's such a good fit for Adam to be in John's place here. And but also Adam was really well oriented, prepared to care for a place like this. A lot you might not know a lot of Vipassana teachers, but there's a lot of really great Vipassana teachers insight teachers who are really great retreat teachers, but they're not going to be able to take care of a place like this. They're not oriented to take care of people in their daily life and in a center and taking care. And I mean, they'll like back off. They'll go on a long retreat to avoid it. Yeah. And I think it's one of the great, I think, ways of being a teacher. Being a retreat teacher is wonderful, but it's one of the great ways of being a teacher is to be a teacher of a community where you're able to sit in the middle of all of life, all of our personhood, and be able to touch it and experience it and support people in, all the phases of a life and all the different ups and downs, and in a way that you don't really do so much on a retreat. A retreat is a little bit rarefied kind of environment, and it's very important to do retreats, but to really learn, like I had to learn a lot on retreats, but then when I started to teach, I began to understand how that applied to so much more of life, to my own life and to the life of other people I meet. So I don't know what it is about Adam's, background or his soul, but he's a rare teacher to have the kind of interest in the Sangha community life and caretaking for it as a teacher. And so I think you're really fortunate to have him here, and it's an art for a community to care for a teacher, to be with a teacher, and to have a teacher. And probably John didn't train people that well for how that art, because John was so self-sufficient and so kind of his own kind of independent operator of sorts. And so if the community wants anybody, the board or people want to talk to me anytime about how to take care of a teacher, how to so the teacher can take care of you, it's kind of the mutuality of it. I'm happy to have those conversations and explore and so finally I want to say that that it's really worthwhile. Yes, I can say so that this is the fundraising part of this. Be prepared, put on your seatbelt. This is very rare for me to ever talk about this way. At IMC and IRC, we never ask for money. We don't even give a Dana talk. We don't even tell people that you can make donations. It's really rare, except there's an envelope they can do, a basket. But we have a whole culture of generosity that is very different from anything that I think that goes on in our kind of an ordinary culture of here in the United States. So people often can't understand what we're about because it's so different. So I very rare I say anything, but when I'm inspiring or encouraging donations for other organizations, other centers, well then I can be unapologetic and how wonderful it is. It's wonderful to live in a culture of generosity. It's wonderful to participate in a culture of practice, which is bringing out the best in people. It's wonderful to know there's a place that's really meant to touch the deepest suffering in human life. That very few places can really touch and find the alternative to that deep suffering. It's very rare to have this kind of place to support. And so I would encourage all of you to it's very important for our society as a whole. It's very important that this kind of place thrive, not just get by and live by, but really thrive so that people can really sense and feel the tremendous radiance of happiness, of compassion, of practice, and of generosity. That it becomes kind of like the medium is a message. Like this is something that we want to spill out into our world all over. John was a wonderful representation of this. I remember in the 1990s, we had lots of conversation about the Dharma talk circuit that he did. He was going around all over. I don't know how many centers, how many sitting groups there were that he went to in every week or every month, but he was always traveling to Reno and Auburn and Sacramento and all these different places, spreading it. And a lot of what Mountain Stream has really supported over these years is John's work to really expand it outwards, so into the world. So to support Mountain Stream, I think is a really good thing to do, really wonderful. And I would really would like to inspire you to to participate in this fundraising and offer your support and what inspires you, what makes you happy, and I think part of what I want to do is to, by saying all this, is to my dream would be not so much that you give a lot of money. My dream is that you offer something, whether it's your labor, your time, your goodness, your support, your financial support, and it makes you happy. Like if you think back, oh, that was a good thing. I'm glad I did that. Actually, so it's really feeds and develops what's wholesome in you and healthy in you. And so nowadays we have this new phenomena. And it's always something new. And now they're called QR codes. And because some people now only pay things with their phone. And so that, what's cash? What's a check? But then now the new thing is QR codes. So they have 2 QR codes, and one is for a one-time donation, and the other is for a monthly donation. And so if you've never done a QR code, welcome. It's a new adventure. It's the future. And so they also it helps Mountain Stream quite a bit to have some sense of the kind of expected income coming in. So when there's monthly donations that are kind of signed up for, they're automatic, then they kind of count. They have a general sense of what they can plan for and make plans for the future. So that's what I have to say. And I'm delighted to be here. Yes.
I'm going to offer announcements. Is this a good time?
Yeah, come on.
So great to have you guys here. My name is Jen Scott. I help coordinate volunteers and support community. I would love to encourage everybody when we're finishing this up to take a minute to say hello to each other and not just do a bum rush for whatever's next, but to really drop into this morning of community and intentionality and the kind of rare find component of it. I've been invited to share the weekly offerings here. And I want to say we have a regular schedule, but that doesn't mean it's not miraculous. The other thing I'd like to say is I think people get attached, I'm using that word carefully, to say Monday nights or Friday nights. And I would really love to encourage people to consider cross-pollinating themselves, to try something different, maybe grab a friend and try something different. Or check in with a friend and find out what they love to do here, because there really is a ton going on. And I think we need to just kind of encourage each other to keep showing up. It's really pretty simple. So every week, these things are on offer. Each weekday morning via Zoom, 7:30 to 8, rise and reflect, peer-led meditation. And all these, to get more details before I go on, there's lots of flyers in the foyer on the bulletin board, so you can use your phone to take a snapshot of that. You can also always go to our website, which is mtstream.org. So just relax into this. I assure you, it's all good. So each weekday morning via Zoom, rise and reflect, 7:30 a.m. Monday evenings here, live and on Zoom, Dharma talk preceded by quiet sit. An extraordinary changing band of teachers.
And this Monday, we have a newer teacher who's actually a student of Gil's, named Lin Chi Trung. Yeah,
Super. Via Zoom?
Yes, via Zoom.
Okay, this Monday via Zoom, 6 p.m. Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., sitting and Sangha, group practice and discussing of Dharma topics, council style sharing. Wednesday and Thursday, check our website because you may find a class, sound healing, eco Dharma council. You'd be amazed the different things that pop up on Wednesdays and Thursdays here. Fridays at 11:30, the temple is open for 11:30, and then quiet sit at 12:30. And then Friday evening, what we call room to breathe or recovery Dharma. And then again, Saturdays and Sundays, there are 1,000 different things going on here. So please get to know our website. I just want to say thank you again. I feel like, Kevin, when you asked your question, which was so touching, and I was in the back, so I saw a lot of people sort of like nodding their heads and going, anger, disconnection, letting it go. And so I just want to thank you for that. And one of the things Gil said was, you are the world. And one of the things that I've experienced working here for 11 years is each one of us is the world and we are the world. And I really feel that together we're so much better. So each one of these bullet point events is actually a deep invitation, a really sincere offering from Mountain Stream to each one of us to step through the door and see what's happening and come make it so, because it's really precious. It's really important. And I used to say we're a medium-sized Dharma center in a small town, but now I'm going to say we're a right-sized Dharma center in a right-sized town. So thank you all so much for being here.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. Let's just pause for a moment to just in gratitude and the mudita of the shared joy of being together and being in community, and for having such a wonderful Dharma transmission, really, from Gil. And may our learning and our practice today benefit all those around us. May our practice contribute to peace and care and love in this world. And may we know more deeply that the practice starts right here in this very heart. May all beings be well and safe and free. I'm ringing the bell. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy community for as long as you'd like today.